It's another day, and there's another new example of gamers being attacked by the very people who need us to purchase their products and support their companies so that they can continue to make money. And 505 Games is dismissing criticisms regarding Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes localization and accusations of rewrites and censorship. I have a few things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or through YouTube memberships. And this is a very unfortunate situation, right? Because it really doesn't take a lot of effort for companies and community managers to respond to people in a genuinely nice manner and say, listen, we completely understand your criticisms and your worries, and when we have new answers, we'll let you know. But they never seem to respond that way, and instead they just like to belittle us, and that is exactly what's happening now, because the English localization for 100 Heroes has been scrutinized, and signs are pointing to yet another rewritten JRPG. Now, I did cover this in a previous video, but it did finally release, and unfortunately, there were quite a few differences between the Western version of the game, or the North American version of the game, and the Japanese version. Lots of little changes that ultimately do add up, which is a major problem. I say this all the time. Any censorship is too much censorship, and while, yes, you might say, oh, it doesn't really matter if they added in some, like, very cringy Western term once or twice, but it's a slippery slope. If you say it's okay to change one thing, companies in the future will continue to push that limit, and then you give them an inch, they take 5 miles. It says, though, the self-proclaimed faithful translation advocate and censorship opponent had posted this online, sharing examples of the game's worst localizations. These include modern lingo such as get, good, and chud in a fantasy setting, the latter not even used correctly, added non sequitur metaphors you'd usually expect to see in a 4Kids production, and the unironic use of the mock Joss Whedon-esque line, well, that was a thing. These localizers think that they are hilarious. They think that they just can do no wrong, and if they find something funny, everybody will find something funny, when that most certainly is not the case. When I support a game, I expect the English localization to be as close to, in this case, the Japanese dialogue as possible and story as possible, but that is not the case here. Characters also suffer changes from small details. For example, the childish alteration of insults undermines Francesca. The Japanese language features honorifics to convey rudeness, which is usually localized with the addition of swear words, yet despite her explosive temper and composure devoid ranting, she never utters a single swear in English, only getting close with mother forsaken. So it seems like the localizer didn't want her to swear, even though it doesn't seem very in character for her. There are swears in Japanese, even though some people claim there aren't. There's truths to that in the technical sense, but with politeness registers, a character that is speaking in an extremely rude and vulgar manner should have been conveyed, and it wasn't, because of course she's a female, and female characters always have to seem innocent or like they haven't completely done something wrong, and that did happen here. And of course, it was really no surprise when we found out who the localizers on this project were. Of course, one of them was none other than Brian Gray, somebody who has in the past been accused in several situations of mistranslating things and localizing things poorly. And he also had previously been affiliated with a certain university in California where he did a dissertation on responsible localization, game translations between Japan and the United States, discussing how content that could be deemed sexist, homophobic, or a gender stereotype were removed during localization. So he has admitted in the past to, thinking this is correct. the better way to do it, that he needs to take it upon himself to alter things for what he deems as a different audience that wants different content, a, of course, modern audience. And then people actually started getting banned from the Eiyuden Chronicle's Discord server simply for talking about censorship and poor localization, which of course is never something you should do. And in a thread, 505 Games actually seems to be aware of the outcry, because in a thread titled "A Love Letter to the Haters," praising the game and defending its localization, an account belonging to the publisher was heartened to hear the praise and dismiss the criticism as an organized campaign. That's all that we're seeing lately, is whenever companies take criticism, they just say, oh, it's a hate campaign. People are mad for no reason. You guys are, of course, sexist, bigots, whatever Easterphobe they can throw at you, instead of actually addressing the situation. This was a kick-started game. Okay, you have an obligation to the people, and when we as consumers are giving you money so that a product can exist, because it wouldn't exist without our funds, we expect a higher level of respect and also transparency. It should not be brushed off as a hate campaign simply because people want to criticize the product and question decisions that you made. I appreciate there's posts such as this one. It can be difficult for people to make positive posts when there's an influx of negative activity on the board. People who are having a good experience can be bullied into just staying quiet when there's brigading happening. It's usually eased up a day or two after launch and discussion turns to gameplay and questions, but as a side note, it helps out the game to leave a review. It helps people find the game who may enjoy it. The reason why people are criticizing your game and the localization and decisions are not because we hate you and we hate the game. It's because we want you to do better, because we want you to deliver a fantastic product, and we want you to act responsible. We want you to take responsibility for the decisions that were made that a lot of consumers are not very happy with. But instead, it's just called a hate campaign and that there's brigading happening. This is the worst response that you could give to people who have paid for your product, is brushing us off. That is the worst thing that you can do. And then accusing us of brigading and just trying to bury this game. That's definitely not what happened. But of course, this is one of the only responses, because they don't actually want to give us details and more information as to why they decided to choose these localizers and why there were alterations from the original Japanese text. They just don't care. And it's so sad to see, because again, so many people were excited for this game, and if you purchased it and you're playing it and you're enjoying it, that's great. But unfortunately, these are issues that cannot be ignored. And when you have the publisher responding in a condescending way, it's not going to go over well. And of course, people like me and people like you are going to find that out and call them out. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.